The girl came to the edge of the rooftop prailing alone, with one foot stretched out as if she had made up her mind. The passers-by watching downstairs not only did not dissuade her, but some even shouted at her to jump faster. I got angry when I saw this scene, so I shouted at the girl, "Hey, if you really want to die, can you give me your first kiss first?" The girl was stunned for a moment, and saw my body getting closer and closer. Lin Xingyi came to her senses and covered her chest with her hands. You pervert, hooligan, go away, don't get close to me." I glanced at the embarrassment of the broken girl in front of me, just symbolically took a half step back, and then said with a smile, "If you are still angry, then you should be happy. So don't deal." And Xingyi looked at the boy in front of her with a pure expression. But he said such frivolous words, ding ding Tuzi, before I finished speaking. Lin Xingyi suddenly thought that what I said seemed to make some sense. It turned out that just half an hour ago, when I just walked out of the classroom and was about to leave with my roommates, I caught a glimpse of a slightly lonely figure walking towards the rooftop stairs. The cold temperament attracted people unconsciously. Strange, there's a rooftop up there, could it be that the view is nice? Suddenly I had a bad premonition, so I politely declined my roommate's invitation to go with her, and followed her stealthily, and then I saw that the girl was actually planning to commit suicide. In order to save people, I tried to distract the girl. "I am almost starving to save you, can you buy me a meal?" While Lin Xingyi was still reacting, I slowly approached and suddenly sprinted. Lin Xingyi felt a pulling force on her wrist, and quickly moved away from the dangerous place beside the guardrail. I held Lin Xingyi's arm tightly and walked towards the rooftop stairs. Before leaving, I didn't forget to curse the people who were making trouble downstairs. I pulled Lin Xingyi away from the edge of the rooftop. Lin Xingyi was still a little dazed and immersed in the memories of the last class. This is a class in advanced mathematics. Why can't I listen to anything? Lin Xingyi forced herself to look up at the blackboard, but the symbols and numbers were distorted in her eyes, like an incomprehensible fog after entering college. Others began to try different paths, but Lin Xingyi returned to the state of junior high school and high school. 3 years after 3 years, she really didn't want to spend another 4 years in such a gloomy state. Finally, the bell rang for the end of get out of class. Lin Xingyi felt suffocated and urgently wanted to escape from this oppressive space. She walked out of the classroom quickly and came to the stairs to the rooftop. The rooftop was 1 floor away. With each step she took, her heart beat quick and she pushed open the door to the rooftop, and the breeze blowing in made her shiver. Returning to reality, Lin Xingyi found that she had already moved away from the edge of the rooftop and was being held by a strange boy. At that moment, her tears fell uncontrollably. She knew that if she jumped down, all her worries would disappear. After getting off the rooftop, I let go of Lin Xingyi's wrist, looking at the obvious red marks on the girl's forearm opposite me. I reflected on whether I had used too much force. I was a little nervous to touch a girl I didn't know. "If you touch me again, I will sue you for molestation." Lin Xingyi's tone was angry, but her nice voice was still pleasant. "I'm sorry, if you're still angry, you can continue to scold me. The more the better." Seeing my sincere apology, Lin Xingyi lost her temper. Her anger turned into helplessness, and a few tears flowed out of her eyes uncontrollably. How could there be such a shameless person? I didn't have much expectation for life, but I met such a person. I blocked the stairs to the rooftop with my body. Every time Lin Xingyi took a step, I followed her. The girl, who was already exhausted, had to try to be a little more vigilant. This kind of person who said rude words and got physical as soon as they met must be a bad person. When she returned to the classroom from the rooftop, the thought of committing suicide troubled Lin Xingyi's mind, leaving her no energy to care about the rude boy next to her. She hoped to blend into the empty classroom without being noticed by anyone, but there was someone else next to her. I watched the girl quietly and didn't bother her. The tears in her eyes and her messy hair made me more convinced that she really wanted to commit suicide. But I just couldn't understand it. I'm in college now. If I don't understand, can I just not learn it? It's not that serious. However, Lin Xingyi was still sitting there with a blank look in her eyes. Seeing this, I took a deep breath and decided to show off my skills. I pretended to be calm and walked to Lin Xingyi's table. I greeted her casually with a cheeky smile on my face. "Hey, what are you daydreaming about? Didn't you promise to treat me to a meal?" Lin Xingyi had just fallen silent when she was startled by the sudden greeting. How annoying, why didn't he leave? Although she thought so in her heart, she still said in a low and cold voice, "I'm not hungry." There was a hint of fatigue in her voice that she didn't even notice. My heart tightened, and when I saw her, how could she still look like she didn't want to live? But I was afraid that if I left, this girl would go back to the rooftop to watch the last scenery of her life. So I made a bold decision. I started from zero frame, pulled Lin Xingyi's wrist again, and led her out of the empty classroom. Lin Xingyi was a little at a loss. She tried to break free twice but couldn't. Finally, she chose to give up struggling and followed me all the way to the cafeteria. I took Lin Xingyi's plate and skillfully selected food for her. Eat more, get fatter. Lin Xingyi forced a polite smile. Thank you, but I really don't want to eat. I felt a pang of pain in my heart after being rejected. Well, you forced me to do this, I can't be the only one embarrassed. An idea formed in my mind. What is your name? Lin Xingyi answered simply and inferently. And at the same time she couldn't help complaining in her heart. You don't even know my name, but you want my first kiss when you meet me. Oh, my name is Chen Yang, and I suddenly said in a serious tone. Xingyi, wait for me, I will be back soon. Before Lin Xingyi could react, I had already strode to the center of the cafeteria. After clearing my throat, I shouted loudly, everyone, look at me. In an instant, the entire cafeteria fell silent, and everyone's eyes were focused on Mel, and Xingyi looked at me in horror, wondering what is he going to do. Hello everyone, I have something important to announce. The voice spread throughout the cafeteria. Lin Xingyi felt her heart skip a beat, and an ominous premonition came to her heart. Today is the first day that I, Chen Yang, like Lin Xingyi. I suppressed my embarrassment and spoke loudly and firmly. From today on, I will let the whole world know how much I like you. Xingyi, did you hear that? I like you? Damn, I'm so stupid. How could I do such a stupid thing? After saying this, I just felt like I was going to dig out a 3-bedroom apartment with my toes. But I couldn't show it. Lin Xingyi wanted to stand up and leave, but she found that her legs were so weak after what I did to her. She felt like she was about to faint. The only color on her lips disappeared. She held onto the edge of the table tightly, trying to find a hole to crawl into. At this moment, I ran back and sat down opposite Lin Xingyi with a smile on my face, with a pure and clear light in my eyes. How was it? Was my confession shocking enough? Were you conquered by my charm? Lin Xingyi raised her head, with incredible shock and a hint of anger in her eyes. Are you crazy? Why are you doing this? Her voice trembled slightly because of her emotions. But I don't care, this is exactly the effect I want. I want to flush it out with other emotions first. Distract her from thinking about death all day long. Oh, don't make such a fuss, I just want the whole school to know how special the person I like is. Lin Xingyi is indeed the most beautiful person I have ever seen in my 19 years of life. What, you don't like my way of confessing? Do you want me to do it again? I said as I was about to stand up again. Lin Xingyi was so angry that she was speechless. You don't understand me at all, this kind of confession is meaningless to me. Lin Xingyi has had many admirers since she was a child, but they just watched from afar and didn't dare to get close. Generally, people who are outstanding dare to pursue them. But if they are too outstanding, they will not dare to pursue them after weighing their own weight. This is the first time that Lin Xingyi has been confessed to like this. I tilted my head and looked thoughtful. Well, you are right. I really don't know you very well, but isn't this a good opportunity for us to start to understand each other? Only when I take the initiative can we have a story. Lin Xingyi was stunned when she heard this. She didn't expect me to react like this. I am really shameless and invincible. You, what do you want to do? I immediately sat up straight, but the smile in my eyes did not diminish at all. My goal is very simple. First, to let Lin Xingyi have a happy lunch every day. Second, to become Lin Xingyi's most trusted friend. And third, of course, to make the whole school envy me for being with the most special you. When I said the third, my tone seemed a little frivolous, and I was not very confident. Lin Xingyi retorted, we are not familiar with each other at all. Maybe I am really tired. Her tone softened a little. Why are you doing this? I sighed, exaggerated, this is my fault. As the most handsome boy, I was not understood by such a beautiful girl. But it doesn't matter, we have plenty of time to get to know each other slowly. How about starting with lunch today? As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling person. I spoke sincerely with a smile on my face. As if I was really sincere in pursuing him. Lin Xingyi didn't expect that this person was not only shameless, but also narcissistic. Though he was indeed handsome, he was definitely not the most handsome. That's called confidence. Dear, I said as I used clean chopsticks to put food on Lin Xingyi's plate. Come on, eat more, I can't let you go hungry. Looking at the suddenly filled plate, Lin Xingyi didn't know what to do. For a moment, shamelessness and narcissism were real, and wanting to care about herself seemed real as well. Lin Xingyi couldn't tell whether this inexplicable person was good or bad. I am in a terrible state right now. Even if you really like me, it won't end well. I didn't take it seriously, it's okay. Let's take it slow. Look, I even know what you like to eat. Doesn't that mean I know you very well? And my biggest advantage is persistence. No matter how many times you chase me away, I will always follow you like a little tail. In fact, everything Chen Yang ordered was his favorite food, and Lin Xingyi didn't dislike it either. Seeing that Lin Xingyi's expression had eased, Chen Yang's tone became noticeably softer and gentler when he said these words. This person is so shameless. Well then, don't make such a fuss about it again. Okay? Lin Xingyi tried to calm herself down, and there was a hint of pleading in her voice unconsciously. This kind of scene was too much of a shock to Lin Xingyi, who was suffering from social phobia, and she was the person involved. Chen Yang made an embarrassed expression. This is really hard for me. But if you promise to have lunch with me every day, I might consider turning the volume down a bit. Of course. Just a consideration. Seeing that the other party was getting more and more aggressive, Lin Xingyi couldn't help but get a little angry, and the tip of her nose turned slightly red due to her excitement. Are you threatening me? How could it be? Lin Xingyi was about to refuse. But just as she said no, Chen Yang immediately added, if you don't agree, I'll yell at you in class next time you have advanced math class. Hearing this, Lin Xingyi forced herself to hold back the word, no. Finally he nodded slightly. This threat is still too heavy. Okay, but don't expect anything else. I don't really have the energy to deal with more right now. As a normal person, it takes great courage for Chen Yang to do such a thing. Huh. He secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Boys are thick-skinned. It's okay. Chen Yang comforted himself in this way. If someone asks you, just say you are a college student. It should be reasonable for college students to do stupid things. That's reasonable, right? Lin Xingyi lowered her head and took a bite of food. It seemed like he was showing weakness to Chen Yang. I'm eating my meal obediently, so please stop messing with me. After dinner, Chen Yang shamelessly wanted to send Lin Xingyi back to the girls' dormitory. The main reason was that he was afraid that Lin Xingyi would go to the rooftop again. I live off campus. Lin Xingyi let Chen Yang follow her at a distance of one step behind her. The feeling of despair on the rooftop in the morning seemed to be diluted a little. Remember, Chen Yang stopped at the school's South 5 gate and put on a serious expression. From today on, you are a VIP member of Chen Yang's exclusive protection plan. Whether you want it or not, I will stick to you like stubborn chewing gum. Also, you are not allowed to go to the rooftops anymore. No matter where the rooftops are. Lin Xingyi raised her head and looked at Chen Yang gently. The light in his eyes doesn't look like hope for life. She said softly, without refusing. What's with the chewing gum? That's a bit disgusting. Lin Xingyi corrected her. Chen Yang smiled brightly. Then see you at lunch tomorrow. I'll call your name. Lin Xingyi nodded gently. As I walked towards the neighborhood where my rental house was located, I felt a mixture of emotions. Your problems will not be miraculously solved just because an inexplicable person appears. The road is still long and difficult. Chen Yang watched Lin Xingyi go away. And after she left her sight, he let out a long sigh of relief. Today was also a great day for the community. It's not easy to do good things. Merit 1111. No, saving a life is a great merit. A few days passed like this and it was the weekend. Most college students would go out to play nearby on weekends. But Lin Xingyi's home is in Linjiang City. The moonlight poured down like water. But it could not shine into Lin Xingyi's heart. Sitting on the subway on my way home, looking at the scenery passing by outside the window, my heart was full of contradictions. The air conditioning in the subway was a bit too strong. And the girl with the dull look in her eyes couldn't help but shrink back. Eat well at home too. Thinking back to what Chen Yang said, when he insisted on seeing me off in the evening, the thought of going home once again shrouded her in a gloom. I really don't want to go back. I thought so in my heart. But my body still moved numbly. It has always been like this. So let it be. Before Lin Xingyi arrived home, a middle-aged man and a woman were having a discussion. Before your eldest brother died, he said that he would raise Xingyi until she graduated from college. And then give her half of the company's shares, and the rest would be yours. Do you want to go back on your word? The speaker was a woman. Her tone was tentative and weakly questioning. The middle-aged man curled his lips and adjusted his tight belt. My eldest brother has been dead for a long time, and he has no objection. So what do you have? How can a girl manage shares? How dare you say that? You can't even give birth to a boy. She is your niece after all. Before the woman finished her words, a crisp doorbell rang from the entrance. All right, stop talking, stay out of this matter. The middle-aged man impatiently stopped the topic. 19 years ago, shortly after Lin Xingyi was born, her biological parents, Lin Xiuyuan and Bai Yuyuan, suffered a tragic car accident, which instantly tore their happiness apart. Lin Xiuya did not die on the spot, but his life was hanging by a thread. In the last moments of his life, Lin Xiuya called his younger brother Lin Xiuha. There was no time to think and make more arrangements. In front of the bed, the two brothers reached an agreement regarding Lin Xingyi's future. Lin Xiuya handed over all the ownership of the company to Lin Xiuha. In exchange, Lin Xiuha needed to raise Lin Xingyi as a parent until she graduated from college. And at that time give her half of the company's shares. Lin Xiuya began to dictate a legally binding will. After discussing the specific details of the division of the company's property rights, before I had time to talk about the other parts, The flame of life suddenly went out. Fortunately, Lin Xingyi, who was still an infant at the time, did not know that she had become an orphan. Later, I grew up with my parents. Outside the door, Lin Xingyi stood there wouldn't lie, waiting for someone in the house to open the door for her. Welcome home. The voice of the woman who opened the door was familiar. Lin Xingyi forced a smile and let her mother hug her. The hug was not without warmth, but Lin Xingyi felt it was not very intimate. As long as she is free, Lin Xingyi will be called home for dinner on weekends. How she wished she could accept this love without reservation. But now, she just felt like a liar, hiding it with a fake smile. During dinner, my father chattered on, and my mother laughed along from time to time. Lin Xingyi chewed the food in her mouth mechanically and could not feel any taste. My thoughts have already drifted far away. Xingyi, ichiza kustana. Why don't you say anything? Her mother's voice brought her back to reality. When you go to college, don't just play around like other people. You have to participate in all those competitions. It will be bad for your future. Mother Lin talked incessantly. Nothing, just a little tired. Lin Xingyi forced a smile and said, I'm full. I'm going back to my room to rest first. As soon as she stood up, she felt a strong sense of dizziness and Lin Xingyi felt like the whole world was spinning. Xingyi, are you okay? The concerned voice seemed to come from far away. Lin Xingyi wanted to answer, but found that she didn't even have the strength to open her mouth. The world in front of my eyes began to become blurry, and my ears were filled with panicked shouts. Xingyi. Call 120. Oh my god, your face looks so ugly. In the last moment before her consciousness completely disappeared, Lin Xingyi saw the mottled cracks on the ceiling of her home. Those spitter-bear-like lines seemed to be her broken heart. I see. Lin Xingyi smiled bitterly in her heart. I am sick. When I opened my eyes again, what I saw was the white ceiling of the hospital. The smell of disinfectant irritated her nose, making her frown. Xingyi, you're awake. Turning around, I saw my mother sitting beside the bed, her face full of worry and fatigue. I wanted to speak, but found my throat was very dry. Her mother quickly helped her sit up and handed her a cup of warm water. As she sipped the water, Lin Xingyi noticed that there were other people in the ward. My father stood by the window with a serious expression. How do you feel? The mother asked, a hint of reproach in her voice. Lin Xingyi lowered her head, not knowing how to respond. Is your health so bad? After Lin Xingyi woke up, the doctor conducted a series of tests, and found that her physiological indicators were normal, ruling out heart problems or other common causes of fainting. So we turned to psychological issues. Afterwards, the doctor's diagnosis confirmed her suspicion. Depression. Depression? There was obvious disbelief and a hint of reproach in the woman's voice. Xingyi, have you been under too much pressure from studying recently? How did you get this disease? Lin Xingyi lowered her head, not daring to look directly at her mother's questioning gaze. She knew how high her mother's expectations of her had always been, and now she was suddenly told that her daughter was suffering from depression, which might be difficult for her to accept. We didn't have this kind of disease back then. Mother Lin was still mumbling. My father remained silent, his brows furrowed as if he was thinking about something. He stood by the window with his back to the bed, giving people a sense of alienation. Sir, madam, the doctor tried to explain. Depression is a common mental illness, especially among students. Common? The mother interrupted the doctor. Our daughter has always been a good child, so outstanding. How could she get this disease? Was the diagnosis wrong? The doctor adhered to his duty and continued to explain patiently. Depression doesn't mean a child is not good. On the contrary, sometimes it is, because of being too good and bearing too much pressure that this situation will occur. Lin Xingyi listened quietly, feeling an invisible hand tightly gripping her chest. So what should we do next? Mother Lin spoke. Will this affect her studies? Postgraduate study is very important, every year. The doctor explained the treatment plan in detail, including psychological counseling and possible medication. Lin Xingyi felt mixed emotions as she listened to these arrangements. Medication? Lin's mother exclaimed. Will that affect her brain power? Now is a critical period, and we cannot delay our studies because of this. Madam, your daughter's health is the most important thing. The doctor finally couldn't help but raise his voice. If left untreated, it could have been much worse. Lin Xingyi watched her phone light up and saw a message from Chen Yang. Did you eat on time? At this time, Chen Yang was in the dormitory making a passionate and fearless contract with his roommate. And he took the time to send a message when he was about to die. Mother Lin seemed to suddenly realize something and turned to Lin Xingyi with a stern tone. Xingyi, have you been staying up late playing with your phone recently? I was wondering why you are always listless. Turns out you stay up late playing with your phone. I don't. Lin Xingyi argued weakly, but her voice was so soft that it was almost inaudible, and she didn't have the strength to confront her mother loudly. My father sighed deeply and finally walked to the bedside, interrupting my mother's words. Okay, doctor, how should this disease be treated? We will actively cooperate with the treatment. Lin Xingyi felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she tried hard to hold them back. She wanted to escape from here. To anywhere. Mother Lin thought for a moment and then said, "No, let's go to another hospital for a checkup, maybe there's nothing wrong." Lin Xingyi now even missed the force that forcibly pulled her away on the rooftop. Tough, unable to break free, can take her away. Open the chat page with Chen Yang and click on transfer. Transfer 1,000 yuan. Lin Xingyi feels that people only covet fame, power, wealth, and sex. The other person keeps saying that he likes me, and even expresses his feelings in a high-profile manner. I can just give you some hard work fee and take you away, right? The transfer was completed, and before I could explain the reason, my mother looked at me again. Lin Xingyi didn't want to listen to the nagging, so she quickly put away her phone. Chen Yang, who was playing games in the dormitory, looked at the money that came to him inexplicably and put a question mark on it. Chen Yang. It's the same if you change to another company. There is always a peculiar smell in the hospital corridors. The pungent smell of disinfectant mixed with a faint smell of medicine, which makes people feel uncomfortable. It's the same in every hospital. Lin Xingyi sat on a bench outside the clinic, clutching the hem of her skirt tightly with both hands, her knuckles turning white from excessive force. "Xingyi, don't be nervous." Mother Lin said next to her and tried to comfort her, but the anxiety implied in her tone only made Xingyi more uneasy. Lin Xingyi looked up at the clock hanging on the wall. The minute hands seemed to be moving, at an extremely slow speed. Every second seemed to be stretched countless times, making the wait extremely painful. I was always in my mother's sight, and didn't dare to take out my phone to reply to messages, for fear of being blamed by her again. Finally, the door of the clinic opened. "Lin Xingyi," the nurse called. Lin Xingyi took a deep breath and stood up. She felt her legs go weak, but she forced herself to move forward. Lin's mother followed closely behind her, as if she was worried that she would fall down at any time. In the clinic, a middle-aged doctor was sitting behind his desk, looking through a stack of examination reports. He looked up at Lin Xingyi and her mother, who came in, and motioned for them to sit down. "Student Lin Xingyi," the doctor spoke in a gentle voice, "we have conducted a series of examinations and assessments on you. Based on the results, I can diagnose you with moderate depression." These words were like a heavy hammer, hitting Lin Xingyi's heart hard. Even though she had a feeling the result would not change. But when she heard the diagnosis in person, she still felt dizzy. My mother still held out hope that the original hospital had made a misdiagnosis. The doctor patiently explained. "Mrs. Lin, depression doesn't just happen to people who look down. Sometimes people who seem to be doing well are more likely to suffer from depression because they are under greater pressure and expectations." The explanation was similar to that of the previous hospital. "Then how can we treat it?" The mother accepted this fact, her voice trembling slightly. The doctor pushed up his glasses and said, "I recommend a combination of psychotherapy and medication. You can arrange regular counseling for your daughter, and we will prescribe some antidepressant medication. Of course, this requires long-term persistence, and family support is very important." How she wished her mother would care about her health. Finally, the mother sighed. "Okay, then let's do what the doctor says. Xingyi, you have to cooperate with the treatment, understand?" Lin Xingyi nodded mechanically, but felt a chill in her heart. She knew that her mother's compromise was probably more out of consideration for her so-called future, rather than a true understanding of her pain. The doctor began to explain the treatment plan in detail, but these words turned into a vague noise in Lin Xingyi's ears. "Xingyi, Xingyi," her mother's voice brought her back to reality. "Oh, sorry." Lin Xingyi whispered, realizing that she was distracted again. The doctor said gently, "Girl, I know you may feel confused and scared right now. But remember, depression is treatable as long as you persist in treatment and maintain an optimistic attitude. You will definitely find your happy self again." Lin Xingyi forced a polite smile, but she was screaming inside. After leaving the clinic, her mother went to pay and get her medicine, leaving Lin Xingyi alone sitting on a bench in the corridor, taking out her cell phone and looking at the question mark in Xing Yang's reply. Lin Xingyi didn't know how to explain the money she had transferred. The other party did not receive it either. The abandoned 1,0 yuan. Saying "take me away" is too ambiguous and too implicit. And saying "take me out for a night" is even more inappropriate. A young lady should also have self-respect. For the first time, Lin Xingyi felt what it meant to fail to express one's meaning clearly. I clicked on Chen Yang's homepage and looked at it again and again, but he just didn't reply to the message. Friends only show the moments of the last month. I refreshed the page a few times out of boredom, only to find that Chen Yang's signature had changed. It became Merit. What does this mean? The beautiful fox's eyes were now a little sickly as she looked at the patients and medical staff coming and going, feeling a strong sense of loneliness. In this busy hospital, it seems that everyone has their own goals and directions. Only she, like a grain of sand lost in the long river of time, didn't know where to go. Xinyi, let's go home. Soon, Lin's mother came over with a bag of medicine. As for Lin's father, he said that the company had a meeting and left halfway. Lin Xingyi stood up and suddenly felt dizzy. She held onto the wall and took a few deep breaths before steadying herself. Are you okay? Asked the mother, with a hint of imperfection in her tone. I'm fine. Lin Xingyi said softly, let's go. Just as she was about to walk out of the hospital gate, Lin Xingyi suddenly stopped. What's wrong? The mother asked doubtfully. Lin Xingyi bit her lip and mustered up her courage to say, Mom, I don't want to be treated. The mother's face turned pale in an instant. What nonsense are you talking about? The doctor said that you must be treated. But, the voice became smaller and smaller. I think I'm fine. Really, maybe I'm just too tired lately. Lin Xingyi. The mother raised her voice, attracting the attention of people around her. Do you know what you are talking about? This is depression, not a cold or fever. If it is not treated, the consequences will be very serious. Lin Xingyi laughed inwardly, wondering if her mother really felt this way. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she tried to hold them back. If she cried now, her mother would only be more convinced that she was seriously ill. Lin Xingyi lowered her head, not knowing how to respond. She just instinctively resisted the coming change. Under her mother's insistence, Lin Xingyi reluctantly agreed to take the medicine home first. Sitting in the car on the way home, I leaned against the window and watched the scenery passing by quickly outside. The tall buildings, pedestrians, and traffic, everything seemed so far away, as if separated by a thick layer of frosted glass. Xingyi, the mother's voice broke the silence, you have to promise me that you will cooperate with the treatment. Lin Xingyi was about to agree when her mother added another sentence. You can't let this affect your studies, understand? Good. Lin's mother had a gloomy face and was thinking in the taxi. With Lin Xingyi's appearance and high education, she should be able to get a considerable amount of dowry money. Although I am a university professor, the average university professor only earns 200,000 to 300,000 yuan a year. Since I don't have any biological children, this money can be considered as a guarantee for myself. But now that I have this disease, I might have to take a discount on this money. Lin Xingyi's eyes were dim now, she just wanted to get off the car quickly and leave home. No matter where she went, how she wished her mother would say, don't worry about studying, health is the most important. Even just once. She is a college student, not a junior high or high school student. As the car passed an overpass, Lin Xingyi saw a few flying birds in the distant sky. They hover freely in the air, unrestrained by anything. How Lin Xingyi wished that she could be like those birds. Break free from all shackles and fly away. But the reality is that she is trapped in this small carriage. Trapped in her mother's expectations and trapped in her own inner demons. Got off the taxi. Returning to her room, Lin Xingyi breathed a sigh of relief. As if a heavy burden had been lifted from her. She gently stroked the photo frame on the desk, which contained the bright smiling faces of her whole family. Is that girl with a bright smile really me? Lin Xingyi shook her head and took out the diary from under the bed. Turning the pages, the neat and delicate handwriting recorded her struggles over the past few days. Questioning life, and longing for death. She turned to the latest page, gently stroked the paper, and tears fell unconsciously. How she wished someone could understand this pain. This contradiction of wanting to be free, but not wanting to give up. The door was pushed open and my mother's figure appeared at the door. Xingyi, let me help you tidy up your clothes. The mother's voice stopped abruptly. Lin Xingyi looked up in horror and saw her mother's eyes fell on the diary in her hand. Time seems to stand still at this moment. Writing in a diary? There was a hint of defensiveness in the mother's tone. Didn't the doctor say keeping a diary would be good for you? Lin Xingyi nervously hid the diary behind her back. Yes. The mother hesitated for a moment but still walked forward. Mama's been worried about you. Lin Xingyi wanted her mother to go out so that she would feel much better. He lowered his head and avoided his mother's gaze. I will take the medicine. The mother sighed and sat down in the chair beside her. But mommy sees that you still don't look very happy. You have to believe what the doctor says, depression can be cured. You just need to maintain a positive attitude, exercise more, and communicate more with your classmates. Lin Xingyi felt irritated. She had heard these words countless times. Mom, I understand. Lin Xingyi said reluctantly, hoping to end the topic quickly. However, the mother's eyes fell on a piece of paper that fell on the ground. That was something Lin Xingyi had written before, and she accidentally dropped it on the ground when she opened the diary. The mother bent down to pick it up and her face suddenly changed. What is this? The mother's voice trembled a little. Xingyi, why would you write something like this? Lin Xingyi rushed to grab it. But it was too late. Mother has seen those dark words. Longing for death makes me fall into eternal darkness. The mother murmured, with dissatisfaction in her voice. If Lin Xingyi really had the idea of committing suicide, the betrothal money he had planned on might be lost. She and Lin, Xiuha, have no biological children. It is said that men become bad after they have money. And she is afraid that she will be abandoned when she is old and ugly. A university professor taught her to be more self-centered. Lin Xingyi felt dizzy and didn't want her mother to know that she had attempted suicide. No, Mom. Lin Xingyi tried to explain. It's just a poem. Just a poem? Mother's voice rose. Do you know how worried I am? I hired the best doctor and bought the most expensive medicine. Lin Xingyi felt suffocated. But how could she explain that the thought was like a thorn in her flesh and she couldn't completely get rid of it, no matter how hard she tried? I know, Mom, I'm trying. The mother took a deep breath, as if trying to calm herself down. Xingyi, Mom knows you are distressed. But you have to believe that this is only temporary. Look, isn't your life good? Our whole family loves you so much. And you have so many friends at school. Lin Xingyi suddenly felt a strong surge of anger. You don't understand at all. She cried. Do you think that taking a few pills and saying a few encouraging words will make everything better? Do you know how I get through every day? The mother was shocked by her daughter's sudden outburst. Xingyi, my first thought when I wake up every day is that I wish I hadn't woken up. Lin Xingyi's voice was filled with tears. I forced myself to go to school and pretend everything was fine. From childhood to adulthood, I have been following the path planned by others. Without any space of my own, it seems that my parents' expectations can never be met. My college entrance examination score is close to 700, and my GPA was 3.96 in the first semester of my freshman year. Aren't these enough? But this is not right, the doctor said, that as long as I take the medicine on time and keep a good mood, that's enough. Lin Xingyi interrupted. Doctor, can you stay with me every minute of every day? Do you think I don't want to get better? Do you think I like this? This was the first time that Lin Xingyi yelled at her parents. She was usually very obedient. Silence spread across the room. Finally, it was the mother who spoke first. Xingyi, how about we change doctors? Maybe try counseling? Lin Xingyi smiled bitterly. No need, Mom. Lin Xingyi stood up. I want to be alone for a while. After saying that, she quickly walked out of the room. Xingyi, my mother called from behind me. Where are you going? It's okay, I'm just going out for a walk. Lin Xingyi tried her best to make her voice sound calm. She rushed out of the house directly in the dark night. She ran aimlessly on the street. Tears blurred her vision. But she didn't care. After leaving home, I felt a little more relaxed. Maybe I shouldn't come back this weekend. Lin Xingyi took out her cell phone and saw the other party replied with a, and she felt inexplicably angry. Maybe the emotions need an outlet. Why, isn't it enough? Regardless of the tears dripping on the screen, Lin Xingyi's white and tender fingers flew up and down. And she turned to 1,000 again as if in a huff. Shen Yang felt very puzzled and wanted to kindly ask whether the other party had eaten on time. The other party transferred 1,000 without saying a word. He added a question mark and typed another 2,000. Another question mark, is it going to be 4,000? Can you be so willful just because you have money? Old Chen, the game is on, stop being in a daze. After running for an unknown amount of time, Lin Xingyi found herself at the beach. The sound of the tide hitting the rocks is particularly clear in the night. She stood on the beach, looking at the rough sea, and felt an unprecedented peace. The faint moonlight sprinkled on the sea, forming an inconspicuous silver path of light. I just realized that the wind seems to be particularly strong tonight. Lin Xingyi walked forward involuntarily, the cold sea water flooded over her ankles and then her knees. What will happen if we keep going like this? Lin Xingyi was in a daze. That thought came to her mind again. Will all the pain ever end? The sea breeze ruffled her hair, bringing a salty scent. Lin Xingyi took a deep breath and closed her eyes. She remembered a lot of things. The love of parents in childhood. The laughter that did not belong to me at school, and Chen Yang's silly exclusive guardian plan recently. Lin Xingyi murmured to herself, opened her eyes, and tears welled up again. The cold touch spread from the feet to the legs and seemed to spread throughout the body. A strong feeling of fear surged into her heart, and she hurriedly stepped out of the knee-deep water and sat down on the beach. Lin Xingyi hugged herself tightly, trembling all over. Tiny raindrops hit her skin, and she couldn't tell if they were brought by the wind or the waves. The sound of the waves, the whistling of the night wind, and the lights of the city in the distance, everything becomes so real and vivid. Almost. Lin Xingyi murmured to herself, tears streaming down her face uncontrollably. He stood up and weakly brushed the sand off his body. The sea breeze is still howling, and the waves are beating against the shore. as if telling of endless loneliness. I took a deep breath, feeling the cool night air, and my mind was filled with thoughts. Really, I don't want to go back. At this moment, an unexpected thought flashed through Lin Xingyi's mind. The name that seemed a bit annoying to her a few days ago, Chen Yang. He doesn't reply to my messages or respond to my money requests. Even though he was so enthusiastic a few days ago. After hesitating for a few seconds, Lin Xingyi pressed the dial button. Hello, Xingyi? Chen Yang's voice was a little careless. And it was obvious that he was playing games while answering the phone. Why are you still awake so late? Are you missing me? Wait, are you crying? Hey, left, right, right? Several of Chen Yang's roommates were still playing video games passionately. Old Chen, why are you offline? It's really a bot. While I was answering the phone, I heard trash talk from my roommate Ji Bakyu. Lin Xingyi listened to the noisy voice on the other end of the phone, which was obviously crying. Chen Yang, can you come pick me up? She asked quietly, afraid she would regret this decision. What happened? Where are you? Chen Yang's tone suddenly became serious. If Chen Yang was asked to give up playing games and get involved in something else, he would certainly not be willing to do so. He was afraid that the girl he had just rescued a few days ago had died secretly without his knowledge. After all, I say to myself, I'm on a bench by the sea, in Xingyu Bay. As Lin Xingyi spoke, she dragged her tired body towards a bench not far away. Don't move, I'll be there soon. Chen Yang hung up the phone after he finished speaking. Chen Yang made up an excuse and rushed out of the door, carrying complaints from his roommates behind him. No way. It's not enough that you want to jump off the building. Now you want to jump into the sea too. Chen Yang felt a little speechless. Life was so beautiful, why did some people always think too much? Giving out 3,000 yuan is probably not an inheritance. Lin Xingyi sat on the bench, looking at the lights of the city not far away. She felt that she should report back to her family, but she felt powerless when she thought about facing her parents. Finally, she picked up her phone and sent a message to her mother. Mom, I'm fine. The school club suddenly had an urgent matter, and I had to go back to deal with it. Don't worry, I'll contact you tomorrow. After sending the message, Lin Xingyi turned off her phone. She didn't join any clubs. That was a lie. About 20 minutes later, a burst of hurried footsteps was heard. Lin Xingyi looked up and saw Chen Yang running towards her breathlessly, with worry written all over his face. Oh my god, I'm so tired. Are you okay? Chen Yang grabbed Lin Xingyi's shoulders and looked her up and down. I saw the location you posted it from, and I thought you wanted to. He didn't finish, but Lin Xingyi understood what he meant. Chen Yang touched the clothes of the girl in front of him, wanting to confirm that they were dry and not just fished out of the sea. Lin Xingyi was wearing home slippers when she went out. Otherwise her shoes would have been discovered to be wet. I'm fine. Lin Xingyi pushed his hand away to stop Chen Yang from touching her any further, but her tears flowed uncontrollably. Without asking Chen Yang Tong whether he agreed or not, Lin Xingyi just hugged him. She just wanted to find something to support herself. Seeing that she was still crying, although Chen Yang felt it was inappropriate, he still did not push her away. If you can't resist, then enjoy it. Yeah, girl's hair really smells good. Although we have just known each other for a short time, people's hugs are always warm. Some boys are like stoves. And in winter they are even more like mobile hot packs. Even though it is summer, it is still hot at night. This instantly collapsed the wall of Lin Xingyi's heart that she had built up over the days. This feels better. It took a long time for Lin Xingyi to calm down. She quickly wiped away her tears, not wanting others to see her in such a state. Chen Yang patted her back gently and asked softly, "Will you tell me what happened?" Lin Xingyi shook her head. "I don't want to talk about it now." "Okay, let's not talk about it." Chen Yang's tone was gentle but a little helpless. She was the first one who could call herself out while she was playing games. There is such a powerful lady. Although she is indeed very beautiful. But does being beautiful and rich mean she can do whatever she wants? Then do you want to come to my house? My parents are on a business trip. I promise that no one will disturb you. Chen Yang's ability to speak fluently is getting better and better. My home is in Linjiang City, and that's true. Lin Xingyi hesitated for a moment and finally nodded. I don't want to go home, and I'm alone in my rental house. Just accept your fate. If you're kidnapped, it doesn't matter anyway. Chen Yang carefully helped Lin Xingyi to stand up, fearing that she would break like glass. Sitting in the taxi, Lin Xingyi looked at the scenery rapidly receding outside the window, her heart still full of contradictions. But it seemed much better than when I took a taxi with my mother. At least, there's no such pressure. She just wanted to escape from the suffocating environment, even if only temporarily. Hey. Chen Yang wanted to try to say hello to her. Hello. This melancholy girl, I'm really afraid she might die accidentally. Lin Xingyi forced it which of her lips as a response. Wow, so cold. The car drove into a quiet neighborhood. Here we are, he said. Lin Xingyi nodded and followed Chen Yang into a residential building. Following Chen Yang into the elevator, her mood was still complicated. I was nervous about entering a strange environment. But at the same time I felt a little relieved because I could temporarily escape from home. Lin Xingyi looked at the warm yellow light and felt a little uneasy. Chen Yang pretended that he hadn't thought of it either and scratched his head. Looks like my parents are home, don't worry, I'll explain. Before Lin Xingyi could react, Chen Yang had already pushed open the door. The eyes of both people in the room were focused on the two people at the door. Son, why are you back? Where were you going so late? Before Mother Chen finished her words, she saw Xingyi behind Chen Yang. Her expression quickly turned into one of shock. Chen Yang seemed not to notice the change in atmosphere. Still with a heartless look, and announced loudly, Dad, it was Xiaocao's father. Mom, I brought back a girl. The room fell into silence in an instant. Lin Xingyi felt her face burning instantly, and she wished she could find a hole in the ground to crawl into. Mother Chen's face was gloomy and she turned and walked towards the bathroom where the mop was. You kid, what did you do to that girl? Mother Chen was about to pick up the mop. At this moment, Chen Yang quickly stepped forward and grabbed his father's sleeve. He lowered his voice and explained quickly, Dad, this girl is in big trouble. She has nowhere to go now. Father Chen frowned, and looked at the little girl his son suddenly brought home. Maybe it had something to do with Mr. Chen's occupation. Lin Xingyi lowered her head uneasily, feeling like a prisoner being scrutinized. Auntie, uncle, I'm sorry, I shouldn't disturb you so late. Lin Xingyi mustered up the courage to speak, her voice trembling a little. I'll leave now. Don't. Chen Yang and his father shouted at the same time. Father Chen cleared his throat. Little girl, don't be in a hurry to leave. Since you are here, you are a guest, come on, come in and sit down. At the same time, Chen's father questioned Chen Yang with his eyes. It's so late, it really wasn't you who kidnapped him back? Mother Chen also put down the mop in her hand, that was about to hit Chen Yang. And the expression on her face eased a lot. Yeah, come in. Young people, you are really worrying. Although there was still a hint of reproach in his tone. His eyes had softened. Lin Xingyi looked at Chen Yang at a loss. And the latter nodded encouragingly to her. At the warm invitation of the Chen family, Lin Xingyi sat on the sofa. Mother Chen quickly brought a plate of cut fruit. And Father Chen also made hot tea. Here, have some fruit. Mother Chen said gently, her eyes lingering on the little girl's pale face for a moment. And nodded. This little girl is pretty and clean. Child, are you in trouble? Lin Xingyi felt her throat tighten. And she was hesitant to speak, not knowing how to answer. Seeing this, Chen Yang quickly interrupted. Mom, she's been under a lot of stress lately, can we let her rest for a while? Mother Chen nodded thoughtfully, then turned to Xingyi and spoke in a gentler tone. Don't be afraid, kid, no matter what happens it will pass. You can stay here tonight, I will go and clean up the guest room for you. Lin Xingyi felt her eyes getting a little hot. She didn't expect to feel such warm care in this strange family. Thank you, Auntie. She said softly. If you don't want to sleep in the guest room, you can sleep with me. Chen Yang suddenly interrupted. You. Lin Xingyi seemed to have gotten used to his rogue why these days. She wanted to refuse, but this time, before she could finish her words, Chen Yang quickly admitted his mistake. Just kidding. Just kidding. Chen Yang waved his hands, and his spider sense keenly sensed the low pressure coming from his mother. Father Chen also smiled kindly. Just treat this place as your own home. If you need any help, just let me know. Chen Yang breathed a sigh of relief and winked at Lin Xingyi. As if to say, see, I told you it's okay. The atmosphere gradually became relaxed. Mother Chen would ask about her well-being and preferences from time to time. Father Chen talked about some interesting family stories, including some embarrassing moments when Chen Yang was a child, some of which made Lin Xingyi laugh. The old man is quite good at speaking. Chen Yang looked at his father. Lin Xingyi discovered that Mother Chen's eyes were becoming softer and softer as she looked at her, even with a hint of fondness. While helping Lin Xingyi tidy up the room, Mother Chen called Chen Yang in and whispered to him. This child seems to be sensible and pretty, you must treat him well. Chen Yang lost his stubbornness at this time and protested in a low voice. Mom, no, what are you thinking about? The grandchildren I will have in the future will definitely have big eyes and be pretty. Mother Chen was immersed in her own joy, and Chen Yang could only remain speechless. Father Chen looked at the weather forecast on his phone. A typhoon passed through Linjiang early this morning. The wind was howling outside the window, and there were occasional lightning and thunder, and heavy rain was pouring down. Lin Xingyi was lying on the bed in the guest room, and every thunder made her tremble involuntarily. Depression made her extremely sensitive to such sudden noises, and the fear came over her like a tide. She curled up in the quilt, trying to use it to isolate herself from the outside world, Every bolt of lightning seemed to tear her heart apart, and every clap of thunder reminded her of those painful memories. But even so, it seems more peaceful than sleeping at home. Because you don't have to worry about facing your parents when you open your eyes. There was a gentle knock on the door. Xingyi, are you okay? It was Chen Yang's voice. Lin Xingyi hesitated for a moment, but still answered softly. I'm fine. Lin Xingyi unlocked the door. The door was gently pushed open, and Chen Yang's figure appeared at the door. I heard thunder and wanted to come see you. Chen Yang's voice was low and gentle, completely different from his rogue appearance during the day. The moment she saw Chen Yang, Lin Xingyi felt an inexplicable sense of security. She forced a smile. Thank you, I'm just a little uncomfortable with it. Chen Yang walked to the bed and sat down gently. I was also afraid of thunder when I was a child. Probably when I was 4 years old. He snapped his fingers and whispered. Would you like me to chat with you for a while? Maybe it can distract you. Lin Xingyi nodded and looked at Chen Yang gratefully. I was a bit annoyed with him usually, but maybe it was just what I needed. Now I don't feel that annoyed. The two chatted about interesting things at school, but most of the time only Chen Yang was talking. At times like this, of course I would bring up my roommate's embarrassing moments. In the dim darkness, neither of them could see each other clearly. Gradually, the tension eased. There was a particularly loud thunder suddenly, and Lin Xingyi, who was almost calming down, couldn't help but grab around randomly. It happened to be Chen Yang's hand. Chen Yang didn't hide either. It's limited to tonight, so I'll lend it to you. Can't tell who got the upper hand. After a moment of silence, Chen Yang suddenly suggested. Xingyi, how about I stay here with you tonight? I can sleep on the floor. Lin Xingyi quickly shook her head subconsciously. No need, I'm much better now. It is always a bit impolite to let the host sleep on the floor. It seemed like that rogue spirit came back and Chen Yang did not give up. You still look scared though. He blinked. Don't worry. I promise to behave myself, just think of it as roommates helping each other. Lin Xingyi still shook her head. No, that's not appropriate. Chen Yang started to act like a spoiled brat. Then I'll sit at the door and watch. I can't sleep anyway. When you fall asleep, I'll go back to sleep. Don't be like this. Lin Xingyi felt helpless. She wanted to complain, but didn't want to disturb Chen Yang's mother. Chen Yang continued to persuade her. How about this? If you don't want me to sleep on the floor, how about putting a pillow wall between us? I will never cross the line. Look, there is so much thunder outside. What if you get scared? Lin Xingyi hesitated. I am still a little scared. Chen Yang's presence really made her feel at ease. I really feel that Chen Yang is too shameless. These are facts. But you cannot have both. After some inner struggle, she finally whispered. Okay, but you have to keep your distance. Chen Yang nodded happily. No problem, I promise to be a good and obedient roommate. He carefully lay down on the other side of the bed. With a long pillow between them, the two kept a safe distance. But Lin Xingyi could slightly feel Chen Yang's body temperature and breath. The rain is still falling, and the thunder is sometimes far away and sometimes near. Lin Xingyi closed her eyes and tried to fall asleep, but the turmoil in her heart became more and more intense. Another flash of lightning streaked across the night sky, followed by a deafening roar of thunder. Lin Xingyi subconsciously moved closer to Chen Yang. And before she knew it, she had crossed the pillow wall. Being closer to Chen Yang would seem to make things much better. Just as Chen Yang was about to fall asleep, he froze and dared not move. Lin Xingyi raised her head and looked at Chen Yang's bewildered expression, and suddenly felt an unprecedented impulse. Chen Yang, she called softly, with a hint of charm in her voice that she herself was not aware of. Didn't you say you wanted my first kiss? Chen Yang's eyes widened, not daring to move for a moment. The confident and slightly ruffian boy who usually appears in public has completely disappeared at this moment, replaced by a helpless self. It's okay to be mentally prepared during the day and be a scoundrel to others. But the situation is completely different now, and Chen Yang is not prepared at all. Xingyi? He stammered, his face a little hot. What are you talking about? Lin Xingyi herself wasn't quite sure. She only knew that she needed to feel something at this moment, and needed to confirm that she could still feel the warmth. She slowly approached Chen Yang, looking straight into his eyes through the darkness. Chen Yang felt his heart beating so fast that it was about to jump out of his chest. If I insist on staying here to sleep, I will be in danger. He wanted to step back, but found himself at the edge of the bed with nowhere to go. You can lend me your hands, you can lend me your shoulders, but you can't lend me this. Xingyi, you may not be sober right now. We should calm down. Lin Xingyi didn't say anything, but just continued to move closer. Just as their lips were about to touch, she stopped. Chen Yang felt the warm breath brushing against his lips, with a hint of sweetness. At that moment, time seemed to stand still. Finally, Lin Xingyi sighed softly and rested her forehead on Chen Yang's shoulder. I'm sorry, she whispered. I don't know what I'm doing. Chen Yang took a deep breath and tried to calm his heartbeat. My innocence was almost lost, Chen Yang thought. He patted Lin Xingyi's back gently, feeling relieved. His voice still trembling a little. No, it's okay, we're all tired and should rest. Lin Xingyi nodded and slowly retreated to her side. The atmosphere between the two was awkward and subtle. Chen Yang cleared his throat, trying to ease the atmosphere. Xingyi, don't worry, just pretend that what happened tonight never happened. Okay? If Chen Yang really wanted to take someone's first kiss for no reason, it wouldn't be that easy. If you kiss, you might have to take responsibility. Chen Yang has never been in a relationship, and this is his idea. Lin Xingyi hummed softly and lay down with her back to Chen Yang. As the night deepened, the sound of rain gradually became quieter, and the thunder faded away. The only sounds left in the room were the breathing of the two people. Lin Xingyi closed her eyes, but her heart was still in turmoil. When she wakes up tomorrow, she might regret her impulsiveness tonight. But at this moment, with Chen Yang by her side, she felt the long-lost sense of security. Chen Yang lay there, staring at the ceiling with wide eyes. I just can't sleep, I've never seen such a scene before. His heartbeat had not yet completely calmed down, and the scene just now kept replaying in his mind. Oh my god, this is totally different from what I thought. I almost lost my first kiss. In summer, the days are long and the nights are short. It was just past 6 o'clock, and the morning sun was shining on Chen Yang's face, beating at his sleepiness. Chen Yang slowly woke up from his sleep. Before he opened his eyes, he felt a warm and sweet breath lingering around his nose. My nose felt slightly itchy, as if something soft was brushing against it from time to time. Slowly opening my eyes, what came into view was a field of smooth black hair. He was stunned for a moment, then he realized that Lin Xingyi was curled up in his arms with her head resting on his chest. I wanted to escape, but I didn't dare to move, or if I retreated a little further, I would fall. Lin Xingyi's sleeping face was peaceful and beautiful. Her long eyelashes cast a shadow under her eyes, and her small nose was slightly wrinkled, as if she was having a sweet dream. The quilt was sandwiched between her long and slender legs, revealing a large area of white skin on her chest. Chen Yang's eyes wandered unconsciously. In the darkness last night, he couldn't see the lips clearly, and now, under the morning light, those small and soft lips seemed to be glowing with an alluring luster. Chen Yang was still a little dazed after just waking up, and couldn't help but be a little absent-minded. Last night. It was almost. Chen Yang's thoughts drifted back to the heart-pounding moment last night. After all, he is still a young boy, and the throbbing at that moment still makes him uneasy. Just as Chen Yang was daydreaming, Lin Xingyi moved slightly. His eyelashes trembled a few times and he slowly opened his eyes. Her sleepy eyes met Chen Yang's gaze, and both of them were stunned. Hello, hello. Chen Yang could only smile awkwardly. For a moment, the room was so quiet that the only sound was each other's breathing. Lin Xingyi seemed to realize her situation at this moment. When she woke up, she found herself in the arms of this pervert. Ah, what do you want to do? His voice was still soft and hoarse with sleepiness. Lin Xingyi exerted force with both hands, and Chen Yang felt like he was about to fall. Perhaps because she had just woken up, her strength was much weaker than usual. Chen Yang came back to his senses, a familiar smirk on his face. Seeing Lin Xingyi like this, the embarrassment of losing the initiative last night was swept away, and Chen Yang returned to his usual nonchalant appearance. I was thinking. He pretended to be deep and said, do you want to steal your first kiss? Lin Xingyi heard this and cursed softly. Pervert. Although she said this, Lin Xingyi had already discovered that she was on Chen Yang's side of the bed. After all, I didn't know when I came here, and I felt embarrassed to push him away. The two of them just lay there quietly. Chen Yang couldn't move, and Lin Xingyi didn't want to move. After a while, Chen Yang was still worried about what happened last night, and asked softly, Xingyi, are you okay? Lin Xingyi hummed in a depressed tone. Chen Yang hesitated for a moment, then said, what happened last night? Why did you go to the beach alone? Hearing this question, Lin Xingyi's body stiffened noticeably. She was silent for a long time. So long that Chen Yang thought she would not answer. Just as Chen Yang was about to change the subject, Lin Xingyi suddenly spoke, her voice so low that it was almost inaudible. I had a fight with my mom. Chen Yang gently stroked Lin Xingyi's back, silently encouraging her to continue speaking. Lin Xingyi took a deep breath and slowly told what happened last night. I still blame myself in my heart, wondering if I am too pampered and pretentious. After all, other children don't have this disease. I'm probably just tired. Lin Xingyi's voice trembled a little. She tried hard to blink her eyes, not wanting to show her vulnerable side in front of others. Dion, cry. Chen Yang said in a panic, trying to hide his uneasiness with a relaxed tone. If my parents saw this, they would think I was bullying you. Then my parents would really send me to be the future son-in-law of the Lin family. Lin Xingyi was amused by him. She raised her head and glared at him. And then the tears that had just filled her eyes flowed down uncontrollably. This scoundrel always plays jokes like this. Chen Yang reached out to wipe her tears, but stopped halfway. Not suitable. In the end, he just handed Lin Xingyi a tissue. Then what about transferring 3,000 yuan to me? For your errand fee. Including accommodation fee, I'll give you another 1,000. As if it was a matter of course, Lin Xingyi picked up her phone and started operating it. Chen Yang was really speechless. Does this girl have any basic concept of money? No, I won't accept it even if you transfer it. Chen Yang's family is not poor. His father Chen Jianjun made some contributions in the anti-drug team when he was young. And now he has been promoted to the Public Security Bureau Chief of Linjiang City. When Chen Yang went to college, he was not entirely focused on studying. His family could not provide for him for the rest of his life. So he had to find his own way to make a fortune. Obviously, being with a rich woman is not what he wants, unless he has worked hard until he is in his 30s and has achieved nothing. You got my clothes wet, I really want to make it up to you. You have to wash my clothes later. Lin Xingyi was stunned for a moment, and looked at Chen Yang in disbelief. What? The first time Lin Xingyi did laundry was when she lived in her own rental house in college. I never had the opportunity to do this kind of work before. Chen Yang shrugged and showed a sly smile. Yes, I want you to do the laundry. Besides, you see, I am such a handsome guy, so of course I have to take good care of my clothes. And it's your pleasure. Chen Yang continued to display his ability to speak fluently. If Chen Yang's mother Li Huowan were here, Chen Yang would definitely not dare to say such things. After all, there is no reason to let guests do work. Lin Xingyi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You are so shameless. That's natural,